Well, hey there, Changemakers. Welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. I'm your host, Amy Van Meel, and I'm here to inspire and teach changemakers like you, entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, and people who are doing big things in the world, some tips, tricks, things about business, and we're doing some personal growth on the way. With that, let's dive into today's topic. Well, hey there, Changemaker. Thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast episode. I'm stoked that you're here, and I'm extra stoked because today is a very special day in our house. Today is my guy's birthday. I'm a huge fan of birthdays. I love celebrating. I don't care whose birthday it is. I love celebrating birthdays. And it's kind of funny, as we get older, a lot of our friends are like, let's just ignore this birthday. I don't want to celebrate it. I don't want to think about getting older. And I always tell them, look, the alternative to having a birthday is not so great. So we should celebrate the fact that you're having a birthday. Besides, how often do you get to have a day that really is just all about you? Not because you're a mom, not because you're, a secretary or anything like that, just because you showed up on the planet. I think that is worth celebrating. So, if you're having a birthday today, happy birthday. If your birthday is not for a couple months like mine is, well then, hey, we'll celebrate together when we get there. So I'm excited about today's podcast episode because it ties in beautifully to a lot of the work that I've been doing the last few weeks. So some of you, if you're a regular listener, you will know that just about 10 days ago, the Profit Power Pack launched and is live. So the Profit Power Pack is a product that I launched recently that is focused on helping you boost your bottom line. So I notice a lot of entrepreneurs, especially solopreneurs when they're starting out, have trouble both evening out the roller coaster of profits and expenses, and that they're often undercharging. So the Profit Power Pack talks about all those things, and our topic today is going to touch on just one point, a small point that's inside the whole Profit Power Pack, but a very powerful point, and that is payment terms. Now we're going to jump into that in a second, but I wanted to share this with you. So if you follow my Instagram at all, you can find me at I Dare to Begin. Then you may have noticed that I had a few posts celebrating the fact that I've just signed my first 5-figure contract. So I bring on design clients all the time, and the strategies that I teach inside the Profit Power Pack are what I use to ensure that we have clear communication about what we're doing, the work that I'm providing, etc. And typically the packages are in the 4-figure range. They'll vary within that, whether it's $1,000 or $6,000 or up, but I've yet to sign a 5-figure contract. So it's big news in our house that I just signed my first 5-figure contract. Now, the crazy thing is I've actually helped others sign their own 5-figure contracts, which is like, why am I holding up on this? And I teach you the strategies of how to put together really powerful client packages inside the Profit Power Pack. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But what I want to touch on before we get to the payment terms is something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. So in the last few weeks, I've become familiar with Brooke Castillo, who has the Life Coach School, and you can check out her podcast. It's the Life Coach School podcast. And she was guesting on James Wedmore's podcast. You guys know how big of a fan I am of James. And they were talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect. And basically, it's when people who are very skilled or very intelligent in an area have major doubts about how skilled and able they are, whereas those who know very little are crazy confident in it. Now, I'm sure my hand is up. I definitely have this, and I'm sure a lot of you listening have the same thing where you're like, I know a lot, but I feel like I don't know as much as I should. So I love this. I was doing a little bit of research ahead of time and found a blog post on thehighexistence.com, which says here, the intelligent falsely assume that others have equal understanding, which is why being smart, beautiful, or talented can actually result in lower self-confidence. I mean, doesn't that kind of blow your mind a little bit? Like the fact that you are smart, the fact that you have talents, if you grew up being beautiful, then you don't think that that's true. You think that you're lacking in some way, which is crazy because so often we have knowledge and skills and talents that others just don't. Now, here's why this came up for me. As I was putting together the proposal for this 5-figure project that I just signed on, I had to repeatedly talk myself out of talking myself out of doing the contract. So interior design is something that I've been doing for years. I'm very good at it. I have very happy clients. This project in particular was from a client that I'd worked with previously who came back to me. The project is outside of what I normally do in the sense that my focus is usually residential based, and this is a commercial project. But I did all my due diligence ahead of time to make sure that I wouldn't be overstepping my bounds with this project, to ensure that this is something that I definitely could lend my expertise and my skills to. And yet, even so, I had to continually remind myself not to talk myself out of taking a chance and putting in this proposal. Now, what's really amazing about this, because this is big news in our house, seriously, my guy's been telling everybody who will listen, I'm sure, that I signed this big contract. He's so proud of me, and I love it. It's so fun. But what's been interesting in some of the conversations that I've had is that I said, I had to continuously not talk myself out of this contract, not talk myself out of putting together this proposal. And what I loved is that everybody that I talked to about this, these are highly skilled individuals. These are people who have risen to pretty high heights in their jobs, in their industries, and they all said to me, Amy, I do that all the time too. I thought, I always have to do that. I have to continuously tell myself, no, I actually know what's going on here. I can do this. So I wanted to touch on this in today's podcast because I'm sure I have proof now that I'm not the only one, and I'm sure a lot of you listening feel the same way. Feel like you know a lot, but it's almost like the more that you know, the less confident you are about it. And if you know a lot about a subject, it can drive you really crazy when someone who is brand new to it and they don't understand a lot and they sort of have a surface understanding. And they seem to be landing jobs and clients that are way outside of what they can do. And yet they seem so confident in it and they are growing their business like crazy. And you're just like, how is that possible? It's the Dunning-Kruger effect that you are having where you're doubting how able you are. So how does that relate to today's topic where we're talking about payment terms? Inside the Profit Power Pack, I work through, it's 3 modules inside the Profit Power Pack, and each module builds on the other. And all the way through, you are building an outcome for your clients. And then in the end, I teach you a very powerful strategy to bring it all together and make it so easy for your clients to say yes. When I put together this 5-figure proposal, it's exactly the strategy that I teach inside the Profit Power Pack. And within a couple of weeks, I had a yes from the client. And to be fair, they had approached commercial designers who do commercial spaces for a living. That's their entire business. And yet they came to me, they reached out to me, and they liked what I put together. And they like how clear and concise everything is. Now, when it comes to payment terms, if you are doubtful of your ability, then often that will relate into being really uncomfortable talking about money, especially with your clients. I see this so often where you might be undercharging, you might be doing a lot of things for free. There's a lot of stuff around money, and I want to keep today's topic a bit tight, so I don't want to get into too much of the extra stuff. But when you are uncertain or you're unconfident about your ability to provide the service or your ability to get the client to pay for your service, then you're not going to feel confident in talking about payment terms. Now, I've become something that I've developed over the years of having my business. I've learned to be very clear about my rates, about payment terms, and to not waver on it. Now, inside the Profit Power Pack, I do share a story why. I tell you how I got there, and you can pick up the Profit Power Pack if you like at daretobegin.net/profit. And what I found is that when I'm clear about the money, when I take the doubt, the shame, the fear out of it, when I just meet my clients where they're at and say, look, this is what I charge, this is what it looks like, here's how it works, my clients love it. Because I've taken away one of the biggest pain points that they suffer, which is this fear around the fact that it's going to cost a fortune. When I first started my business, I used to charge hourly for my services, and I was pretty good at understanding how much time it would take to do something. So if I had my initial design session and the client wanted to engage further with me, I would say, okay, for the amount of work you're looking for, that's 5 to 8 hours, or that'll be 4 to 6 hours, or that'll be about 10 hours of time. And I was pretty good almost every single time. I nailed it within or under the time frame that I had suggested, that I had stated it would take, with the exception being when clients added more services. They wanted to do more work with me, or they suddenly added more deliverables into the original scope of work. When I changed from saying, okay, it's going to be approximately this many hours and literally billing by the hour, and instead created what I use now all the time, the client packages, it turned my business around overnight because it made it so easy for my clients to say yes. And the truth is, that's where you need to be. You need to make it super easy for your clients to say yes, to want to engage with you. And if you live on this planet, I know you've had to pay for someone's services. And besides the fact of, you're wondering, are they good at it? Will they do a good job? If it's something in your home, will they be respectful of my home or my family or my time? One of the biggest things that always comes up is, how much is it going to cost? The truth is, we're always afraid to ask that question. And what's even worse is that so many business owners and tradespeople are afraid to answer that question. So what you have is two people staring at this giant hairy elephant in the room that's like, well, hey guys, I'm not going away, and you want to get paid and you need to pay for this, but nobody wants to talk about the fact that I'm standing here. It's not helpful to your clients if you're not being clear about what it costs to work with you. And whenever I have a conversation about money with anybody, I'm very clear about it. It's been a great exercise for me to step into that and to own it, and also to take away the emotion from it, to take away the fear, because I have held a lot of fear around money. It's something that I'm working on. It's a continuous work in progress for me, but I have to be able to take a step forward and say, look, I'm not going to let that control my life, and I'm no longer willing to sit in fear and be afraid to ask and afraid to have this conversation. So a few weeks ago, I was interviewing a few bookkeepers. So my businesses, because I have two now, have gotten to the point where I really need to bring a professional bookkeeper in. Up until now, I've always done the bookkeeping for my own business, and it's something that I highly recommend. It's something I teach inside Lost to Launched Academy. I think it's really key to understanding your business. When you know how your books are kept and you understand where the money goes and how things get expensed or tracked within your numbers, then it makes you a smarter business owner. So I always recommend, especially when you're starting out, that you do your own bookkeeping for even 6 months. If you want to do it longer, great. but it's definitely something that I suggest all business owners do for at least 6 months, enough to get a basic understanding of it. Now, with my interior design business, it's a sole proprietorship, which is a bit easier on the bookkeeping end. But this business, Dare to Begin Incorporated, is a corporation. That's a whole new ballgame when it comes to tracking your numbers. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, it's not actually a valuable use of my time to be spending an hour a week to do my bookkeeping. And more than that, I'm now right at the edge of, if I keep going, I could really screw it all up. And I don't want to do that. So I reached out to a few bookkeepers, and I've never had to interview anybody in my life. And so my first phone call, I'm like, look, I don't know the questions that I need to ask. I'm not even sure what to tell you. This is the first time I've ever reached out to specifically hire someone like this. So, bear with me. We'll work our way through. And she was fantastic. And in the end, that's the bookkeeper that I ended up hiring. But in that conversation, like any good business owner, you need to know what the cost is of a service. So in our conversation, while I'm speaking with this potential person that I'm going to bring in to help me with the numbers of my business, I'm very clear, what's it going to cost? Now, I understand, especially when it comes to services, that it is difficult to put a specific number behind it. It's not like a product. If you buy this shirt, it will cost you $20. With the exception of being, okay, I need to engage 1 hour of your services. What's your hourly rate, right? That's a fairly clear answer. And yet very rarely do we give that answer. And I'm the same. If a brand new client or potential client calls me to ask about my interior design services and asks what it costs, before I ever give them a rate, I want to find out what they're after. I want to find out what their project is, because first of all, if we have no relationship at all and I tell them my rate is, $250 an hour, it's not, but let's say it was, and they didn't know anything else about me and I didn't know anything else about their project, that literally could be the end of the conversation. And that's actually not helpful to the client, because all I've done is fill their head with fear and give them an immense amount of doubt, both in themselves and in me. Basically, they're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. I don't want my clients to sit there. I don't want them to be thinking this is just so outside of my reach. I know people need help putting their homes together. So I want to find out more about that client ahead of time. So typically the conversation of how much it actually costs doesn't come up until the end of the call, after we've spent 10 or 15 minutes where I've been asking a lot of questions and understanding what you're after. Here's the other reason why. It's entirely possible that what this potential client wants is not in my wheelhouse. It's not something that I want to do or that I am able to do. And so giving them a number at random doesn't help them either. I would rather find out what is it that you're after. And then once I know if it's something that we could potentially work on together, then let's talk money. But before then, because here's the thing, guys, if I charge $250 an hour, but they don't need anything of the level that I offer, then what I've basically done is I've implanted the seed in their brain of, well, interior designers are really expensive and they're outside of my price range, so I guess I can't hire one. Where the truth is, they potentially could hire someone who's maybe less experienced or has a lower rate, however they work it out. And yet it would be fantastic for them to work with that person, and even better for them to work with that person than with me. But what I've done is I've created an enormous amount of doubt and fear in their mind. Okay, so I want to be clear about that. So when I speak with the bookkeeper, when I was asking about the rates, I need to know what it's going to cost. When you're bringing things into your business, you need to know what it's going to cost. Here's the cool thing about products versus services. Products are so easy in terms of price. The price is what it is, right? Very rarely is there an option to negotiate on the price of a product. Think about any time you've purchased something online. You can't call somebody and be like, all right, I see you're charging $20 for that shirt, but what if I bought two? Could I get it for $10 a shirt instead? right? There's nobody there. It's just the cost of the product. So when you're selling products, it's a little bit easier in terms of the price point because it's a fixed price. This is what it is. There's a cost involved to manufacturing that product. There's a cost involved to delivering it to you, right? So the cost to the client is fairly clear. When it comes to services, we have this weird thing where we think that because it's just time, somehow we can negotiate on the cost of that person's time. Now, I want you to hear this really clearly. So if you're multitasking, come on back to me right now. Time is your only non-renewable resource. It is also your most valuable resource. When you hire someone and the cost of their services is based on the time involved and you ask for a discount on that cost of service, you are devaluing their time. If you're a business owner and you are charging right now for your services and someone asks you to lower your rates to meet whatever their needs are, they are devaluing your services. And the crazy thing is, and I teach this inside the Profit Power Pack, is that it's actually also reducing their rate of success. So I'm just going to leave that little nugget for you there. It's inside the Profit Power Pack, so definitely grab it. You can grab it right away. When you ask for a discount on someone's cost of services, you're devaluing their time. So when it comes to payment terms, I want you to think about the conversations where money is a challenge. So, for example, here's a great example. This just happened to me a couple weeks ago. A friend of ours, longtime friend of ours, reached out to me by text a few weeks ago and said, Amy, I really need help putting together paint colors for my home. We're on a bit of a budget, but I definitely want to pay you for your time. So first of all, I love the fact that this person reached out, because often lots of people are afraid to, and B, that they said, look, we want to pay you, but I got to be honest, money's a little bit tight. So I totally appreciate clarity like that because that's how I operate, and that's probably why we're such good friends. So I respond in kind and say, I'm so excited that you've reached out. I'm honored that you touched base with me. And I lay out very clearly, here's my rates. Now, for my friends and family, I do have a slightly reduced rate. It's not crazy cheap. I didn't cut my regular rate in half. I've reduced it a little bit. But I let them know, if it's a friend or a family member, look, here's my regular rate. Here's the rate that I charge friends and family. If that's outside of your budget, I totally respect that and feel free to say, look, Amy, we just can't afford it right now. Because here's the thing, I don't ever want to ruin a relationship, to ruin a friendship around money. So in that case, I need to be really clear with them ahead of time. This is the cost involved. You do not want to say, absolutely, I'll be able to help you with that, and then book everything off, and then after you've done the service, nail them with a bill that they either weren't expecting or is way higher than what they can afford. And the truth is, most of us would never say anything, but we would be thinking, wow, I'm never doing that again. I'm not going to hire him or her again. The other downside that you may not have considered is now all of a sudden that person is less likely to refer you to others. Or when they're talking about working with you, they're going to say, she was really good to work with, but wow, it cost way more than I thought. That is not what you want people telling potential clients, because that now sits in their mind. The same as when you're talking to a potential client and the first thing you talk about is money. There is a huge seed of doubt now in that potential client's mind. So when it comes to payment terms, it's important to be really super clear and concise about what your payment terms are. When I put together packages, my client packages, so for example, this 5-figure contract that I just brought in has very specific and clear payment terms. I have a very specific system of how I set terms out for my clients. I call it splitting the risk, and I teach you how to do it inside the Profit Power Pack. But what I want you to take away is the fact that I'm really ultra clear with my clients about what the terms are. So if you're providing services, and let's say, for example, you know that if you're selling your services as a package right now, and you're unsure of how to lay out payment terms, first of all, grab the Profit Power Pack because I teach you all the way through all of that. But the second thing I want you to really understand is that it is your responsibility as the business owner to be really clear about the terms of payment. So if that means that you go out and say, for example, you're a masseuse, you go do a massage and you don't bill your clients until afterwards. Now, if you are in a spa or some kind of location where your clients come to you versus, say, a mobile massage where you go to your client, then often when the massage is done, the client comes out, goes to the front office or what have you, and pays for their service, right? If you're a mobile massage, for example, then it may not work that way. It might be that you go to your client's home and you invoice them afterwards and you expect to get payment. Now, what can happen when you don't have clear payment terms is that the client can just take forever to pay. They forget about it, they're short on money, whatever. And so all of a sudden, you've provided this service, but you're stuck because you haven't gotten paid yet. And that's why it's really important to be very clear about your payment terms. I came to the point in my own business where I had to say, I have a 30-day payment period in terms of when an invoice gets issued, you have 30 days to pay before interest gets charged. That does not mean you have 30 days to pay and then, after that you can figure it out. The invoice, it's due when it's sent out. So when you get the invoice, that's when it's due. I'm expecting you to pay it right away. But I understand that life happens and sometimes we forget or things come up. So there is a 30-day grace period before interest is charged. What I am extremely clear about with my clients, if that invoice isn't paid, I am not doing more services for you. So until that invoice is paid up, we're not working together. When I put together packages for my clients and I have payment terms inside those packages, I'm very clear. There's a deposit required. Work does not begin until that deposit is paid. And that's very, very, very much on purpose because, first of all, I don't want to start doing a ton of work and then all of a sudden the client pulls out. That is an inefficient use of my time. Second of all, if I do a bunch of the work and this has happened where the client is now all over me, I need to meet with you, we need to get this figured out, and they haven't paid the bill and I've gotten the runaround, the check is in the mail. I just need to talk with my accountant. Can you send me the invoice again? And that ends up being that you are literally chasing money. So now my business is set up that if the deposit isn't paid, the work doesn't begin. It's the same thing if I order products for my clients where I require a full payment. I want to say that again. I require a full payment in advance in order to purchase the product. I do not ever buy products on my credit. I did that by mistake as well early on in my business. And I learned from my mentor that she never does that. And I'm like, you can take full payment up front? She's like, yeah. Why would I use my own credit for something for a client? Because if that sits on my credit card for months, I'm the one paying the interest on it, not the client. So now I'm very clear. I have a specific process that I work clients through, and I'm very clear from the front. If you want this, I require a full payment up front. And then if you don't want to pay it yet, then that's cool, but I'm not ordering the product. So if you have a tight timeline and you're delaying payment, well, then the product doesn't get ordered in. That's not to be a hard ass. That's to protect me and my business. That's to protect my credit, to make sure that I'm not overextending myself for a client, right? That's not smart business to do things that way. So you have to be really clear about your payment terms. How do you get paid? How do clients pay you? Do you accept cash or check or e-transfers? Will clients be able to pay you by a credit card? And if so, how? When do you expect to get paid? Are they required to pay you before you get there, or is it required to be paid as soon as your service is completed? When does that happen? Be clear about it. Look, I know it's scary as heck to be honest and clear and concise about payment terms because that's not what we've been taught. We've been taught that money shouldn't be talked about, that it's a taboo subject, that it's impolite or improper, or come up with any other baloney reason why we shouldn't talk about money. And so we don't. But that's not smart business. And your clients will love and appreciate the fact that you just take the guesswork out of it for them, that you're not letting them sit in fear and doubt and worry, that you're just like, look, I know my value. I totally understand that money can be a touchy subject. So let me just be real clear and upfront with you right from the start. I promise you, your clients will love you for it because they don't want to sit in that crappy spot. They don't want to be worried about what's going to come through, right? Nobody wants to have that. It's like preparing your taxes. My taxes just finally got filed. It took forever, but they finally got filed. And the tax bill at the end, there's no way for me to guess it. So I understand my numbers and I had a basic understanding of like the GST required, but I wasn't prepared for my income tax bill. And the truth is, a lot of people that I talk to feel the same way. They're just like, wow, that feels like it came out of left field. I was not expecting that. Why would we do that to our clients? Why would we put them in a position where they're doubting it, where they're unsure about it? So just be clear and concise. And to relate back to the earlier topic of the Dunning-Kruger effect, have confidence in your ability to bring the money in. I know that's a huge challenge for some of us. It's an enormous challenge for me some days, so I totally get it. You know how good you are. You know the value that you bring to your clients. Have confidence in your abilities and have confidence in your clients that they're excited to work with you and that they want to pay you. They want to give you their money. So often I see this all the time especially online when it's online business owners. And Amy Porterfield is a perfect example of this. She just released notice about her live event that's coming up. I think it's in September or October. And Amy Porterfield has a huge following. I am one of her students and I follow her on Instagram. And so I get to see a lot of the comments and things. And I love comments that is literally where someone's like, Amy, just take all my money. I just want to give you all my money. Like, let's just keep going with this. I just want to pay you so we can, because I know what you can do for me. Your clients feel that way about you too. Your clients are like, yeah, I'm totally happy to pay you for your services. Please just tell me what it's going to cost. That's why it's really important that you step up, that you take ownership of it and you be clear about it. Let the Dunning-Kruger effect just fall to the wayside for a moment and step into that. Your clients will love you for it. I am trusting that this message is meeting you where you're at today, that you've learned something really valuable out of today's podcast episode. I would love to hear from you guys on my Instagram account because that's where I'm the most active. So you can find me at I Dare to Begin. And I would love to hear what your biggest takeaway is from this podcast. Don't worry about finding the podcast or the Instagram post that is specifically about this podcast. Put it on the first post that you see on my page. Just say, hey, me, listen to this podcast, and this is my biggest takeaway. I would love to hear about it from you guys. Or DM me. You can always DM me on Instagram as well. Now, I've talked about the Profit Power Pack a bunch of times inside this episode, and that's because the payment terms that I talk about, I explain in detail. I teach you exactly how to do it inside the Profit Power Pack, and it's forefront on my mind because I've been, building it out the last few weeks. I will say this. I'm going to toot my own horn here for a second, guys. I filmed and edited all the videos for the Profit Power Pack and the accompanying bonus, How to Deliver Like a Rock Star, in these past few weeks. And I am not one to be like, wow, I really nailed it. That's a difficult thing for me to say, and it's something that I'm working on. But as I was editing these videos, I'm like, holy cow, these are really good. Amy, you're giving a ton of stuff away inside these videos. And I'm like, should I raise the price? Am I giving it away for too little? That's the thoughts that are going through my mind. But the truth is, they're so good. The content inside those videos is so good, and they will make an enormous difference on your business. So I definitely invite you to grab the Profit Power Pack. The pre-sale price is now over. I was selling it at $97 up until June 15th. So we are now June 25th. Happy birthday to my guy. And the price now is $197. That's still a crazy heck of a deal, guys. So please, if you are wanting to boost your bottom line, if you're struggling with how to best serve your clients and how to make more money in your business, then please grab yourself the Profit Power Pack, not for my benefit, but for yours. I know it can do amazing things for your business. Like I said, I just landed a 5-figure contract using exactly what I have inside the Profit Pack. So I can do it. I helped others land 5-figure contracts. I know it can be a game changer for your business. You'll find it at daretobegin.net/profit. All right, changemakers, that's it for me. I am actually tomorrow, I'm heading out to San Francisco. I am so freaking excited. I've never been anywhere near that far west in the States. I think the furthest west I've been is like Illinois. I'm so excited. I won a free all expenses paid trip last year from one of my suppliers in my design business. And my most favorite rep, who's also become a very dear friend of mine, is actually going to be my, call it chaperone / partner in crime for this trip. I literally leave tomorrow morning. I'm beyond excited. I need to actually pack my bags. If you are in the San Francisco area, hit me up, tag me on Instagram and say, hey, Amy, I'm in San Francisco, and just let me know where you are. Our schedule's kind of packed full, but I would love to meet you guys if you're in and around the San Fran area. Just know that I'm there for barely 48 hours. I'm coming down for Design Week. I'm so excited. I can hardly wait to experience San Francisco, to see the ocean, to see the Golden Gate Bridge, and all the things that are in San Francisco. And I just have to say, real quick, San Francisco is way smaller than I thought. For those of you who live there or familiar with it, you'd be like, well, yeah, I mean, it's on a peninsula. I had no idea. I thought it was this huge space. And I always hear people talking about the Bay Area. And now I understand, after I've been looking at the map and trying to figure out where we're going to go. I understand why they talk about it as the Bay Area, because San Francisco is actually not that big. So who knew? I didn't. All right. I'm stoked. I can't wait to see you guys on next week's podcast. Find me on Instagram at I Dare to Begin, and please, 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 please comment on the most recent post and let me know what you learned from this episode. I'd love to hear from you guys. With that, I'm wishing you an amazing week. If it's your birthday today, like it's my guy's birthday today, happy birthday. And otherwise, I'm so looking forward to seeing you on next week's podcast. Bye for now.